All right, guys, so we are going to go over this literal equations paper that you guys picked up after your quiz today. I told you that I would put the answers up. You can pause the video right here, check your answers if you've already worked on it. If you missed any of them, then just go to that problem. Okay? All right, so number one, literal equations. The formula for the area of a circle is A equals pi r squared, where r is the radius. Solve for r and do not rationalize the denominator. Okay, so what I've got is A equals pi r squared, and I'm trying to get this r right here by itself. Okay, so first thing that I see that I need to do is divide by pi. That's the inverse of multiplication. So that'll go away. It's going to leave me with r squared equals a over pi. Well, now I need that squared to go away, and we know to get rid of a square, we take the square root. So the inverse of squaring is square root. So what we will end up with is r equals the square root of a over pi. We know when we take a square root, it is plus or minus, but because we're talking about a radius, that's going to be a length. It's not going to have the negative in there. And it said don't rationalize the denominator. All right, so using this equation that we just found, can we find the radius when the area is 15.7 centimeters? Use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so my area is the A. All right, so I would have r equals the square root of 15.7 over 3.14. And technically this is centimeters squared. Okay. All right, and it said to round to the nearest two decimals. If you divide 15.7 by 3.14, you're going to end up with the square root of 5 centimeters squared. That actually divides evenly. Well, the square root of 5, when you round to two decimal places, you should get 2.24. It's approximately. And if you take the square root of centimeters squared, it's just going to leave you with centimeters. Okay, number two. Ignoring air resistance, the distance, d in meters, that an object falls in t seconds is given by the equation d equals 4.9 t squared, where t is greater than 0. Solve for t. Do not rationalize the denominator. So d equals 4.9 t squared. Again, we're trying to get t by itself. So the first thing we see is this 4.9. So we need to divide both sides by 4.9. So 4.9 divided by 4.9 is a 1. I'm left with t squared equals d divided by 4.9. So now I just need to get rid of that square. So I take the square root of both sides. We end up with t equals the square root of d divided by 4.9. Okay, it says do not rationalize the denominator. So that means don't get rid of the radical in the bottom. Okay, and 4 and 9 are perfect squares, but 4.9 is not a perfect square. All right, so the square root of that 4.9 in the denominator is not 2.3. Okay, you got to be very careful with that. Part B, use the equation in part A to determine the time required for an object to fall 500 meters. Okay, so that's the distance, right? So we're just going to replace our distance here with 500. So I get t equals the square root of 500 over 4.9. Okay, and it says to round to the nearest second. All right, so you're going to end up with 10 point, I think it was 10 is what we ended up with, and it says to round to the nearest second, so you would just end up with 10 seconds as your final answer there. Okay, number 3. Solve the equation x squared plus y squared equals 100. We're solving it for y, so I'm trying to get y by itself. So the first thing I see, I need to subtract x squared from both sides. It's going to leave me with y squared equals 100 minus x squared. And then we can come in here and take the square root of both sides. You end up with y equals, for this one we would take plus or minus because we don't really have a context here. So plus or minus the square root of 100 minus x squared. And that's it. Number 4, y equals 3 times x minus 7 squared plus 8. And we're solving that one for x. Okay, so if I look, this x is inside the parentheses with this -7, and all of this is getting squared. So in order to get to this x, when I peel back these layers, I can't get inside here until I get rid of this 3 that's out here, this 2 that's back here, this 7 that's here, and ultimately this guy back here has got to go away first. Okay, so before I can even do anything over here, this has to go away. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. 8 minus 8 is 0, so I end up with y minus 8 equals 3 times x minus 7 squared. Some of you may try to FOIL that. You don't want to do that. That's way too much work. I can then come over here and divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so this would go away. All right, so I'm left with y minus 8 over 3 equals x minus 7 squared. This is kind of like those extracting the square root problems that we've been doing, isn't it? Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So then I'm left with, I'm going to write my x minus 7 first. X minus 7 equals plus or minus, let me make this go away really quickly. All right, x minus 7 equals plus or minus the square root of y minus 8 over 3. All right, so I could, if I wanted to, I could rationalize this denominator. I'm going to tell you that you don't have to. So then we're going to come over here and we're going to add 7 to both sides. -7 plus 7 gives me a 0. So I'm running out of room. What I end up with, my x is now by itself. And I have this plus or minus root y minus 8 over 3 plus 7. So I'm going to write my 7 first. So I get 7 plus or minus the square root of y minus 8 over 3. And there's your final answer for 4. All right, so now we've 3 more real quick. Number 4, or number 5, excuse me. The formula for the volume of a cylinder is V equals pi r squared h. Okay, pi times the radius squared times the height. So solve for the radius r. Okay, so there's my r right there. So do you guys see that that's pi times the radius squared times h? If I know that there's all multiplication going on, I could come in here. If I know pi and h need to go away, I can do that all at one time. Pi divided by pi is 1, h divided by h is 1. So that leaves you with r squared equals v over pi h. Okay, we're almost there. So we then come in and we take the square root, and I'm going to get r equals the square root of v divided by pi times h. And I'm not taking plus minus because we're talking radius, right? That is a context problem. And I know my radius is not going to be negative. So part B says if the volume is 200 pi cubic inches, okay, I know that's inches cubed. Oh, man. And the height is 8. All right, so that's basically saying, this is saying V is 200 pi and H is 8 inches. That's inches cubed. What is the radius? Okay, so I'm just plugging in, right? So R equals the square root. My volume was 200 pi inches cubed divided by 8 inches. Okay. Oh, I forgot. We had a pi, didn't we? So we got to put that in there. Pi times 8 inches. All right, so then if you notice, my pi divided by pi is 1. I have inches cubed over inch, so this is going to go away, and this 3 would become a 2. So then I have 200 divided by 8. And does that divide evenly? And it does, right? So this is going to give me, if I were to reduce this, the square root of 25 inches squared. And then the square root of 25 we know is 5, and the square root of inches squared is inch. So we've got 5 inches. And that's your final answer. So the last one here, solve s equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h for h. So this is what I'm trying to get by itself. I see I got this whole thing right here. I need to subtract this entire term from both sides. So I get s minus 2 pi r squared equals 2 pi r h. And I'm trying to get h by itself. So this 2 pi r, all that's being multiplied and it needs to go away. And we know the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide every term by 2 pi r. Okay, 2 divided by 2 is 1, pi divided by pi is 1, r divided by r is 1. It goes away. I come over here, I notice, look, 2 over 2, pi over pi. This r squared over r, this guy's going to go away. This becomes a 1, right? So what we're left with then, I'm going to write my h first. H equals, and I'm coming back here to this term, s divided by 2 pi r, because nothing simplified there. So s divided by 2 pi r minus, the only thing that was left, this pi went away, the only thing that was left was an r to the first power, so just minus r. And there's your final answer.